Breaking news! There is a brand new Secret Lair Superdrop coming for Spider-Man in just a couple of weeks, and today's video we're going to talk about them, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and there is definitely some of both of those things in this Secret Lair drop. So, one of the big things I want to note before we jump into this is there are going to be 5 different Secret Lairs, and they will be limited run. They're not print to demand, which is a bit of a bummer. Price-wise, though, they are only going to be $30 and $40 respectively for most of them, which is good because for Final Fantasy they did have to charge more, so I'm happy that that's not going to be the case here. Pretty cool. There is one Secret Lair that is egregiously $60, and as a bit of a teaser, we'll talk about it a little bit later in the video because I have some thoughts on that. So, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it, looking at this first Secret Lair, and as we go through, I will kind of total the values, at least for the non-foil, on screen. I don't have the foil values handy, and quite honestly, I want to focus just more about the cards themselves, especially because there's nothing in here that's going to have, like, I think a massive discrepancy between those two. So, just something to keep in mind, obviously, as we go through. This first one is the Daily Bugle. They did a really good job of getting that, like, newspaper feel on the cards. I'm actually really impressed with that. It's just kind of a shame that most of the cards they selected are lackluster or very easily accessible. So we've got Frantic Search up first, which is again a good card but very cheap. I'm gonna just round up for the purpose of this video when we're looking at values. We've got Scheming Symmetry, a little bit better at around $6. Not a terrible card. I think it just doesn't have that many prints. It's been in a couple of Secret Lairs, and that's about it. So that's probably the reason for the majority of its value. It's essentially Imperial Seal, but instead of only you getting the effect, the opponent gets it as well. That's obviously a massive drawback, which is why the card is nowhere near that kind of value. But it looks cool, and it's not completely unplayable. So there is that. It's at least in a reprint that hasn't been reprinted recently. Blasphemous Act, pretty much everyone's kind of familiar with this card. It is a really strong board wipe for red, but the thing is it's also very inexpensive. Now, the one thing about Blasphemous Act that I always like to point out in videos is, like, there's not really, like, a quote-unquote, like super large assortment of high rarity or premium, whatever you want to call it, versions of Blasphemous Act. I would wager that the one from the Vamp Monsters Secret Lair, I don't remember which Secret Lair this is actually called, but it was this one that had back in 2023, it was like the horror movie posters or whatever. So that one is probably the top version of Blasphemous Act. So what this has working to its benefit, of course, is the people who are looking to upgrade rarities or play some higher value stuff for whatever reason. This is definitely one that may end up doing better price-wise than its, like, non-Secret Lair versions, for whatever that's worth. But again, not exactly the best reprint inclusion. It's only a couple of dollars. We'll call it $2 right now in terms of the value. Just to kind of keep moving. Impact Tremors, again, a pretty solid card. It was just reprinted in Foundation, so a bit of a bummer to see that double down there, but we'll call it around $2, give or take, and that's going to bring us up to about $10 in value. Again, these are Spider-Man themed cards. They are unique, so I do expect there will be some demand, but we're looking at it from the perspective of what we're actually, being asked to spend on this, and that's, a bit of a different, thing to take into consideration. The last one in this drop is Fact or Fiction, and this card is about 20 cents, even if I'm being generous, which gives us a total value of $10.35 in non-foil for this Secret Lair that costs $30. So you are looking at this exclusively as A, you like the art, or B, you need the cards or want upgraded versions of the cards. I always say that with Secret Lairs, it's best when there's a balance of good reprint value and good art. This doesn't really have that reprint value for it, but I do think it has some pretty good art, and I think for Secret Lairs to explore in this space and design a bit more outlandishly than your regular Magic card look is totally okay. So it's cool from an art perspective. I can't recommend buying this at $30. I would definitely not recommend buying it over $30. The foil one may do a little bit better, but there is no huge price discrepancy on these, so it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, well, is this worth it to buy? And honestly, my answer on this one is probably only if you like it. If it's one that you really like the art for, then, it could be worth grabbing. But otherwise, it's a skip from me, and you might be able to pick up some of these singles fairly cheap, unless I'm underestimating how popular the Spider-Man Secret Lairs are going to be. But if we're being honest, there are other ones that are significantly better that I think you can put your money and interest into otherwise. That, of course, would be the Heroic Deeds Secret Lair, which is the second drop here. And this one is definitely an improvement. We start off with Ephemerate, which is a really solid card that, despite a few reprints, doesn't have a ton of value, in terms of I'm sorry, despite a few reprints, doesn't have a ton of drop in value is what I meant. But this is a decent-ish version, and it's the first Secret Lair that it's had. We're going to call it $5. Cool artwork, nothing outlandish. 3 visits is another very popular card. This one is, despite being reprinted plenty of times in Commander decks and stuff, it never really has dropped all that much in price, which is kind of funny. I do think the Secret Lair version of this card is going to do very well. The last one was for Monty Python, and that's well over 40. One of the biggest things to consider about 3 visits is the artwork on this is stellar. It has, obviously, 3 of the most iconic Spider-Man characters on it, and it's probably the best ramp card for green, just generically speaking. So while it's not super expensive, I do think it's a very strong inclusion for a reprint, and I think we'll end up doing well because of that if we look at historical Secret Lair data. Lightning Greaves is another card that has been printed in plenty of Secret Lairs. This card was recently in 2. It was in the Sonic one, and it was in the one that they made for charity that I'm blanking on the name of right now, whatever the name of the actual Secret Lair is. But it was cool, and it had Ancient Green Warden and Sylvan Library, among other stuff. Generally speaking, we're looking at the Secret Lair drops and seeing that, you know, the Lightning Greaves from Sonic's about $5, around 11 from this one. You know, this is probably going to be more popular than Sonic, so I would expect it'll probably be okay there. For value, we're just going to give it a $5 value, but I have to say, Lightning Greaves is one of those cards that does kind of transcend that, especially in previous Secret Lair printings. It's always ended up doing really well, and is a Commander staple that just sees play in nearly every deck. Soul Ring, kind of hard to put this on a grading scale. I mean, it's $1, so we'll add it to the value track, but Soul Ring from Secret Lairs always, in some form or fashion, end up doing really well. The Sonic one's doing quite well. Got some really unique art. It's just hard to grade a Soul Ring based on that because it's, generally speaking, premium versions of Soul Ring always end up going up in value over time, and this one being a Spider-Man one leads me to believe it probably will see a similar effect. So I'm not really taking this too much into consideration value-wise because it is a card that will end up being worth more than its base version. And then Command Tower is the last one. This card is, I mean, the cheapest is like 20 cents. It's not even, we'll just call it 50 cents for number, you know, clarity purposes. Plenty of Secret Lairs for Command Tower, almost like, at least like 4 a year, probably more. Some look really cool, some, you know, whatever, but they're value-wise, they're all pretty inexpensive. So even, you know, with the Spider-Man Marvel tax on this, I can't imagine it's going to be crazy. But the Secret Lair as a whole, you know, we're looking at $16.50, so it's, you know, about a loss of $14 in value. This one I think I can safely recommend at $30 despite the price discrepancy because of the cards included. Just because of historically how well versions of 3 Visits, Lightning Greaves, and Soul Ring do from Secret Lair prints. And of course, Ephemerate has not had one, but it is also a card that, you know, its other higher premium version, whatever, from Strixhaven. I think this Secret Lair is, let's say it like this, fairly lazy card selection from Wizards of the Coast, but a fairly safe investment if it's one you even kind of remotely like the art on. It's probably going to hold itself well over time, especially because all of the cards included in the Secret Lair are good. So, you know, a bit of a mixed bag response on my end. I get that, but I think it's generally going to be a solid card to pick up. Just because of the fact that it's actually, you know, a decently built Secret Lair. So for $30, not bad. $40, I mean, I don't know, maybe the Soul Ring will do well over time, but I don't think you need to spring for the foil, unless you really, really want it. Skipping that middle one for a bit, because if you guys haven't seen the news, that's kind of the hot topic item today. We're going to get to that shortly. I just want to look at Spider-Man, and this is Venom Unleashed, and this is the colored version. This one, I can tell you right off the bat, is a very strong Secret Lair. It has a Damnation in it, which I believe is only the second time Damnation has been in a Secret Lair. Or, yeah, second time. Damnation, just an incredible card. No matter how many times it gets printed, it ends up going back up. It's just sort of like the way it works. The most recent printing of this was back as a special guest promo, which, if you haven't seen it, just an absolutely stellar card from Duskmourn. So we're gonna tell you right off the bat, Damnation, especially for the non-foil version of the Secret Lair, it's gonna be worth it. If you like the artwork and or need Damnation, it's one of those Secret Lairs where it's like they put a high value card in there and it makes it worthwhile to buy. Dark Ritual, absolutely surreal artwork on this. It is incredibly well done. I don't know exactly where we place the value for Dark Ritual right now, so we'll call it like, I don't know, we'll call it $2, because I know the cheaper common ones there. It doesn't really matter too much in my opinion, because if you look at some of the previous Secret Lair versions of Dark Ritual, or even special versions at all, it always does well, regardless. And this is sick artwork if you're even remotely a fan of, like, Spider-Man or Symbiote or all of that. So I'm just grading this on the scale that it's Dark Ritual. It is going to do well, and it's current, this is just another really strong and smart inclusion into the Secret Lair. Peer into the Abyss is actually a really cool card. It's only ever been printed once, unless you count its list printing. It's like, I don't know, we'll call it $3, not the craziest value card, but it's decent enough, and it does have some cute applications that you can make work with it, so, it's worth at least considering. Surgical Extraction, the artwork on this is really cool too. I think a lot of it is well done. It was in Outlaws bonus sheet, so it's definitely not like super starving for a reprint, about $1. This version will probably be more, and I do believe this is its first Secret Lair print, so just something to keep in consideration there. Not a bad card per se. It's not really good in Commander, but I mean, I think it does see play elsewhere. Tendrils of Agony, another, it's a cute card, but it's only about 50 cents. Not huge value, but this is, again, just sort of bonus in my opinion when you look at everything else that we're getting alongside those cards. So the 5 cards at their base version is $26.50. Here's about a loss value of $4.50. I honestly don't think that's that big of a deal. And I think the inclusion of Damnation here is going to make this an auto buy if it's one you like. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying like FOMO buy it, but like if we're looking at like which one of these are going to do the best over time, this is a well-designed Secret Lair that contains a good bit of cards and has cards in it that are historically shown to do really well, especially Dark Ritual, especially Damnation. Any time you get a premium version of a card like that, they generally do well, so I'm going to recommend this one wholeheartedly. I don't know that I'm going to be trying to buy it simply because I already have a couple of Damnations that I really like, and I don't know that I want to deal with waiting in queues for this, to be honest, which if you don't either, I don't blame you, but that's kind of my stance on it. The one thing I want to note too is this Venom Unleashed also comes in a black and white or an ink style. Super cool, right? And the value is going to equal the same, and so that's interesting to know, but these are more along the lines of like, black and white, kind of like, not comic ink, but sort of like obviously a non-colored ink comic. Just look at the Dark Ritual, man. That's some crazy stuff. If you want my honest opinion as someone who's been doing this for a little bit now, I think the ink version is going to end up being a very highly demanded item at some point in the future, especially some of the singles from within it. It just looks incredibly well done. And if you were only going to pick between one or the other, personally speaking, I would say you're probably better off with the inked one, but it's also personal preference, and if you just prefer the color one, then that's on you, of course, but this is, I would absolutely recommend this card, this lair as a whole, just seems to be a very good home run product, especially because they didn't raise the price. And lastly, we have Villainous Plots before we get to the other one here. So this one, interestingly, Deadly Dispute, which is like a 50-cent card, has been reprinted so many times, but it's got Black Cat on the art, which probably alone adds some value. Go for the Throat, really, really well done art here, but again, it's a 50-cent card, so I don't know, where the reprint decisions are coming from. Lightning Greaves, we valued at 5. It's weird because there's 2 separate Lightning Greaves in 2 separate Secret Lairs. I think the other one's probably a bit cooler in terms of design, but I guess it's going to depend on your preference, how you feel about the characters. Either way, I said my whole piece about Lightning Greaves. I'm not going to run through it all again. Soul Ring, kind of cool. Doc Ock will probably, again, do well in terms of that, but just, keep in mind it's Soul Ring, and just a different variation of Command Tower, which is, not exactly anything crazy, but if you like it, you like it. The one thing I want to note, okay, is we're looking at about $7.20. So that means you're looking negative value of about 20, let's call it $28 more or less if you're buying the Secret Lair. It's a very, very questionable choice of cards they included because there's almost no real value reprint in here at all, whereas at least the other ones have something, so that's a bit of a bummer, but I think they're going with, well, it's Spider-Man, people are going to buy it, and I don't like that mentality. I find that mentality to be very generally unlikable, but that's just kind of what they're doing. So obviously you guys kind of let me know what you think of that in the comments section. Before we wrap this video up though, I do want to talk about this one, which is Mana Symbiote, and this is a very hot topic because let me first say these are some absolutely gorgeous lands. They look incredibly cool. They are done in the raised foil style, very similar to the Phyrexia All Will Be One Oil Slick lands. They are Symbiote. They are badass lands, but they are also $60. Now, it's $60 for a Secret Lair. You get 2 of each land. So in a normal Secret Lair with lands, it costs $30 and you get 5. So they're essentially just doubling it up and charging you the price of 2. But this is outrageous because, first of all, the artwork here, again, incredible. And so it's something people are definitely going to be really hyped for. But charging $60 for 10 basic lands is crazy work. You might be able to convince me that if it was 10 lands of a specific, like let's say somebody just wanted mountains and you were charging, I don't know, 40, maybe that's worth it, right? $4 a card, something like that. Or even when they did the Secret Lairs, when they did the test ones for the Chaos Vault, where they sold, you could get multiple of the same lair in a bundle, and they charged it a bit of a better price. They were experimenting. I don't know, maybe that experiment didn't work out. But you're looking at a value here of $6 per land, $6 per card. In terms of the overall valuation, because there are 2 copies of each card, and that to me is just not something that I can recommend, despite the fact that I think they look really cool. The unfortunate part is I have a feeling these are going to end up being really expensive over time, because no one's really going to go after this Secret Lair in mass, I don't think. I'd like to think that the consensus among the general public, from what I've seen, is that this is a ludicrous asking price, and to be honest, the only way we can really prevent this type of price from becoming more commonplace is to not buy it, is to speak with your wallet and not buy it. But the thing is, a lot of people are going to like this a lot, and so they may end up wanting to buy it regardless. Look, I'm not here to tell you how to spend your money. I'm just telling you $60 for this is not worth it. You will maybe be able to pick up some of the lands that you like on the secondary market a bit cheaper, but I have to imagine people that are going in and buying this are going to be selling the lands fairly high so they can keep some of their margins if they're not buying it for collection purposes. You know what I mean? If this is going to get scalped, they're going to have an artificial, scarcity trying to hype the market, because they're going to want people to buy the stuff. So I don't know what that's going to look like, to be honest with you, but I do know it's a ludicrous price for lands, and I do not recommend it. Overall, I think there's a good assortment of layers to choose from here. Heroic Deeds, you really can't do too wrong with. Definitely a big thumbs up on the Venom Unleashed, both of them. I would say Inks are definitely going to be the best long-term performer, in my opinion. Villainous Plot it's cool if you like it. The reprint value is not there, but the art may appeal to you. And of course, the first one, which is the Daily Bugle, may end up doing okay simply because of the uniqueness of the art, but the actual reprints they chose to include certainly could have been better. Overall, not the worst drop, not the best, but I do think there's a lot of good things to keep an eye on here, and also some that are a bit outrageous. That's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll catch you next time.